The following was originally published in 2018, and while I stand by the critiques of The Last Jedi I make, I deeply regret any direct personal attacks I make against Rian Johnson, Kathleen Kennedy, or any other employee of Lucasfilm. Those comments were made in anger and frustration, and I will do a separate video about that after this series.
Last time on the Anti-Trekker, we talked about the Holdo maneuver, which was simultaneously the most cool, badass, awesome moment of the film, and it kind of broke Star Wars just from a practical perspective, and it also kind of highlights the lack of emotional value of that film. So today we're going to be kind of covering the aftermath of the Holdo maneuver. So immediately after the Supremacy is literally sliced in two, amazingly, all the vital areas of the ship containing important members of the story are relatively unscathed. And even when I say relatively unscathed, I mean, this hangar bay looks like it was pretty near the impact site, but apparently no depressurization, no massive collapse of anything that would cause everybody to die. Well, apparently a lot of people, just not Finn or Rose, die because they're important. The Force, I guess. So Finn, of course, is knocked unconscious by the blast while Rose is not, because why not? And she drags him to, well, I want to say drags him to safety, but she really drags him just a couple of feet, and then he wakes up, and they both kind of scramble to get up and start running through the hangar bay because they find a perfectly intact shuttle right in the middle of all this carnage for some reason. Now, if you take a look at this picture, they just got up and are now running across the hangar bay. They are completely surrounded by dozens of dead bodies. How are they unharmed? How does this make any kind of sense? And in fact, based on what we saw of Holdo's impact with the Supremacy, how is it that there's anything of the Supremacy even left? Why wasn't the entire ship just disintegrated from the sheer force of that impact? But never mind. So Finn and Rose decide to make a mad dash for this shuttle when, lo and behold, comes Captain Phasma once again, who for some reason, even though just before the blast, Phasma, Finn, and Rose were all of about 2 feet apart from each other, now they're like 100 yards apart for reasons, I guess. Well, all of a sudden, Phasma decides that now that we're a ways apart and everything's on fire, we'll just shoot you instead of torturing you to death. So, bravo, she realized that. And then, all of a sudden, the stormtroopers start getting blasted by an AT-ST. And yes, we all know what's going on here. Somehow, the little ball droid BB-8 is a more powerful character than Rey in this story. And I didn't think that was even possible. But yes, apparently BB-8 is the single most powerful being in the universe because BB-8 can do anything. I don't get it. So BB-8 manages to kill all the stormtroopers except for Phasma, who's just kind of standing there. And so they shoot Phasma, and guess what? Her armor is blaster-proof. Wow, what a concept. Armor that is blaster-proof. Too bad none of the other stormtroopers in the history of Star Wars have ever had armor that was blaster-proof. That sure could have been handy in, say, a firefight, like all of them. Whatever. So Finn decides that he's had enough and grabs, since the blasters won't work on Phasma, grabs one of the cattle prod stick things and fights Phasma. Phasma throws him into a pit. Then he just happens to land on an elevator and calls her Chrome Dome and hits her in the head. Yay. Well, apparently while her armor is blaster-proof, if you hit her with a good cattle prod, it'll go right through the armor because it blows a hole in her helmet, which you would think would probably be the thickest part of the armor, and then she dies. Because, it would be too dark and cruel to have Finn kill her, so the floor collapses and she falls into a pit of fire, never to be seen again. Just like when she was put in the garbage chute, never to be seen again. Which means, I'm calling it right here, folks, Phasma will return in episode 9. I'm just saying. So Finn and Rose climb up on the walker that BB-8 is controlling, even though the entire armored head portion of the walker has been severed. Apparently, BB-8 can still operate a destroyed walker. Yes, a destroyed walker BB-8 can still pilot because BB-8 can do anything. Finn and Rose triumphantly fly away from the supremacy, no doubt celebrating as we see drifting in space the thousands of severed body parts of the crew members that lost their lives pointlessly. Meanwhile, on board the Supremacy, fuck you, Rian Johnson. Fuck you. Oh, fuck you. I genuinely just don't get it. How is it? I mean, it's one thing to not make a big deal out of Snoke's past, to, kind of just ignore the whole, he's the most powerful Force user ever, but all that. But now you're going to literally use his dead body as a gag to get a laugh while Hux is sitting there freaking out. I don't get it. I don't understand why there are actual people here that love this movie. I really don't. So Kylo lies to Hux about what happened. He suggests that Rey actually killed Snoke, which I have to say is not a bad idea, but he probably should have come up with that one when Rey first caught the lightsaber after Snoke was killed. That way, maybe the guards would still be alive. He wouldn't have had to go through all the trouble of slaughtering them all. The room wouldn't be burnt down and all that. But yeah, whatever. The Dark Force butthole. And by the way, and Hux doesn't even question the fact that all the guards are dead. He just says, what happened here? Oh, Rey killed her. Oh, okay. Well, that's a bad thing. And of course, Rey off camera managed to get to the Supreme Leader's personal ship and take off because she knew right where that was and how to fly it. Because the Force, I guess. So Kylo then orders Hux to get the ground forces ready because they know full well where Rey is going. She's got to be going to Crate, and they're going to take him out. So they're going to get everything they've got left. And Hux kind of gets a little peeved at this. He's a little angry because Kylo's just all of a sudden just barking out orders for him to give to the troops, and it doesn't work that way. So Hux gets a little upset at Kylo for barking out these orders, and then he realizes that it might not be such a good idea to get mad at a guy that can choke you from across the room. And then Kylo, of course, chokes him from across the room. A room that's on fire with explosions. And he's not even blinking. Calm as a cucumber. Like a Sith. Meanwhile, on Crate, Leia is waiting all alone by the giant space door because why not? Well, someone has to stand watch because they couldn't use scanners or anything like that. if you're going to need someone to physically look and listen for the enemy to come, best to have the oldest, weakest person you have who just managed to get out of bed after being in a coma for a day due to exposure to the vacuum of space. Yeah, that all adds up, right? Oh, hey, space fox crystal things. Bet we can sell a bunch of those. Now, I know some of you are thinking,
but wait, Leia would actually be the best person to wait out there by the door because she has the Force and can detect people.
Yeah, you know, you might actually be right about that. So, of course, Leia reaches out with the Force and senses that the approaching ship has friends aboard it. Oh, no, wait, never mind. I guess she just left her Force abilities turned off for now. F*** you, Rian Johnson. Oh, and remember how Leia was all alone by the space door? Well, just kidding. This guy was, invisible, I guess? But he just wanted to turn visible to yell, "Incoming!" because no action movie is complete without somebody to yell the obvious. And by the way, you can't see it in the pictures here, but they also show a wide shot where several other people come running in from just outside the door. Where were they? We saw Leia looking out at the grand flats of Crate, and there was nobody in sight. Where did these people come from? The Force, I guess. Well, you also can't have an action movie if someone doesn't come crashing through a door at the last possible second. So, the ship crashes through the door at the last possible second. And while we're looking at this shot, who designed the guns for the Resistance? I mean, every one of them has a bright blue light on the front. Are they really this stupid? Whatever. The Force. Well, lucky for the Resistance, they just happen to have plenty of cover unless you're a Poe. But Poe is too cool for cover, and those guys in the back, but I think that they're just trying to put on a good face. They're most likely way out of range from what we've seen of weapons in this film. Oh, and look, it was Finn and Rose all along. Shocking nobody. F*** you, Rian Johnson. You know, I was wondering how many Resistance fighters died when the ship came crashing through and rolled over the crowd, but since Rose is at the controls, she most likely enjoyed the whole thing. I can just see her laughing and giggling every time someone is crushed beneath the weight of the ship. Yeah, Star Wars is so much better when you just remember that there is no good or evil. Poe has a strangely physical greeting with BB-8. I mean, really, he's tickling BB-8 and hugging it, and it's just kind of creepy. And based on this reaction, I think that Rose, and you remember Rose, the self-righteous jerk who was perfectly happy to kill innocent people when they happened to be in a city she didn't like, yes, she looks genuinely disturbed by what she's seeing here with Poe. I wonder if Poe is... Nah. Could it be?
Buddy, I'm so glad to see you. What?
Sinners! Robosexuality is an abomination. Good book saith a robot shall not lie down with a human, nor do it standing up, nor at any angle in between.
Hit the like button, you will. Likes lead to comments. Comments lead to conversations. Conversations lead to understanding. Go to Patreon and support the anti-trucker you must, if supporting his videos you want. Yes, support his videos. Then listen to this at the end of the videos. You will not